Hi, folks. Get ready for some real hard-hitting action.
This is the sound of a crime being committed, the sound of computer games being stolen over the telephone lines. It's happening in Scotland, it's happening everywhere, and it's costing the computer games industry millions of pounds each week. Company bosses, computer programmers, even the legal establishment have so far failed in their attempts to stop this crime becoming endemic. Their ultimate problem is computer crackers, a small band of individuals without whom the theft of computer games would be impossible. Some people think they're geniuses. A cracker removes the security code which a programmer puts in a game to prevent it from being copied. Now, it may take a programmer weeks or even months to come up with a security code. A cracker will take a day or even just hours to crack it. They do it for kicks. They care more about the challenge than the money.
I suppose it's about being famous, getting famous in the scene. It's all about becoming the best, and if you get the game spread most, you're going to be like a household name.
I don't see how they think they have the right to take your work, change it, and then hand it out to somebody else for free. I mean, that's just crazy.
When you take the amount of pleasure and entertainment that is derived from computer software, then I really do feel that these people are subversive in every way, and that they are doing everything to destroy that industry of ours. And I would do everything I can to prevent them from doing so.
The history of computer cracking is the history of home computers, from Sinclair's ZX80 and Spectrum through the Commodore C64 and on to the present day. The skill is precise. The ability to disassemble computer programs and discover where the protection code is buried. On first examination, games often appear coded in cryptic gibberish. Our cracker's first task would be to find the key to unlock this code so that he can read the software properly. Now, some of the guys here are directly involved with the security devices that you put on the games to try and prevent the crackers, yeah?
Yeah, this is Brian. He did ST Lemmings for us, and he did some of the routines to try and prevent the copying.
So how did you go about something like that then?
Well, I basically used one of the disk protection methods that's around, and did some of the modifications to the main code that if the disk had been copied or incorrectly hacked, then the game wouldn't work, or it would seem to work initially. With what actually happened with Lemmings, on level 11 it crashed. If you played the two-player version, it died because you could move the cursor off screen and things like that. It was just putting something in that was just that little bit more difficult to find, something that wasn't so obvious.
Only someone with a unique feel for computers could break these codes in a few hours.
I wouldn't say unique. Some of them are very talented and very able. It's such a waste of talent, however, and it's a pity it couldn't be put to a much more constructive use.
It takes us about a year to develop a game, and that's maybe 4 or 5 people, and they've worked hard on that game. And yet a cracker will just take that code and remove just the parts that we put in within one day, and then basically just distribute that. So I mean, I think it's a creative versus a destructive process.
It annoys me quite a bit that we've already managed to create 30 jobs here, and without the revenue being lost to crackers, we could have a much bigger operation here, producing much better games.
If music CDs cost £40, and for each one sold legally, 9 pirated copies went into circulation for £5, the music industry would be outraged. This is what happens with computer games.
So in terms of DMA designs, how much did you personally lose last year from pirated software?
Well, coming like DMA design, obviously, if we have a sort of revenue of about £1 million a year, then that could have been 10 million.
Does that make you feel angry?
Yes.
Crackers work in elaborate teams with gang names like Fairlight, Skid Row and Crystal. They are the punks of cyberspace, the latticework grid of telephone lines that spans the world. They are concerned with challenging authority, creating anarchy and showing off their skills. There may only be around 15 members in each gang, but they will operate in several countries, even across continents. There are no borders in cyberspace.
A group couldn't survive if it just had like 20 members in Britain, sort of thing. You have to have people in different places to pick the games up from different distributors in different countries. There's games go out in America, France, Germany, Sweden.
And you guys have all got people
We've
out?
got those places covered.
There is a strict hierarchy within the groups that crack the games. It starts with the courier, the supplier. He might buy the game first thing on the morning of its release. All he needs then is access to an ordinary computer connected to a modem, a piece of hardware used to transmit computer information via phone lines. The courier is not involved in actually cracking the game. He must send the information through other phone terminals where his fellow gang member, the cracker, lies waiting.
Is the cracker in Britain as well?
No, he's not.
Where's the cracker you use?
He's in Europe, in Scandinavia.
Have you ever met him?
Went on holiday with him last year.
How long does it take on average now to get a game from the point that you first get it from the distributors to when it goes on the bulletin board?
It depends completely on the protection scheme that the company uses. Sometimes you can take 10 minutes to crack a game, other times it could be like 5 days. On general, they're all cracked the same day.
The goal is to be the first to crack a game as near to its release as possible. It is quite common for pirate copies of games to appear before they become available in the shops.
Once again, we come back to this chain. We have to deliver to the publisher. The publisher then tests the final game, maybe in testing for a few weeks. It then goes off for distribution. It comes back, gets boxed, packaged, off to distributors, then into the shops. That's a good 2-3 week process. So if one of those copies gets out, anywhere along there, and that the crackers can crack it in one day, then it can be, we've had games that are widespread before it's even hit the shops. And that's the worst thing that can happen.
So you're saying that it's actually people in the industry that are giving the games? Giving the
Oh yeah,
pre-production games?
we've no doubt about that.
New games are eagerly awaited, as pop records once were, and an obvious chart topper like Lemmings 2 is a prize crack.
Lemmings 2, we did quite well. We tried a new technique whereby we would actually have the disc duplicated. Say, for example, there are 3 discs in the game. We would actually send them to different duplicators. So at no time was there a full, complete copy of the game until it came straight back to the publisher, and they were very, very tight. So that worked quite well. We actually got the game out before the crack copies appeared.
Do you know the people behind the crack? Do you know who got the 0 crack on Lemmings?
No.
We call it an intro. We put that on the front of the game before it goes out, and when the person goes to load the game in, it comes up, this game has been cracked by, we can also put other things on there as well, like right to our PO box, stuff like that. If some group's getting the game at the same time as us and not managing to put it out because we're superior at cracking or whatever, then they obviously get a bit upset about this. They've spent money buying the game. And sometimes as well, maybe the protection's not taken correctly out of the game. There's a bit left, and you get guys in another group. That's like the main reason for slagging another group off.
And how do you slag it off? Do you take an advert in a paper and slag them off? Or
No. It's all to do with like the bulletin boards. It's all the whole scene's on the bulletin boards. You know, you talk to other groups on the bulletin boards. That's where the games go.
Contrary to what some people in the computer games industry claim, most crackers work with basic, inexpensive equipment. They operate on little money, seeing themselves as cyberpunks, lashing out at a technocratic corporate world. One group used the slogan, "For freedom and justice." All the gangs seek to liberate information.
What does everyone feel generally about the view that all computer games are programs which are all information, and a lot of the crackers are doing it because they believe all information should be free to everybody, that they shouldn't have to pay £30 for it? I mean, what does everyone generally feel about that?
That's just bullshit. That does not hold water at all.
But these guys actually believe that. I mean, you know, I'm sure, and a lot of them, the reason the crackers, they don't do it for the money, they do it for the kicks, and they do it because they have this sort of political commitment, because they've told us this political commitment to freeing information. They feel it's unjust that what programmers and developers do, the price of software, they feel it's unjust, and they're like Robin Hoods of the 90s, sort of.
I can believe they do it for kicks, but no way can they use that justification that all information should be free.
Why not?
Because information costs money to generate. I mean, if you write a book, should that book be free to everyone to read? I mean, it's the same argument. It's.
Why don't the hackers write games themselves? Why don't the hackers write games?
Ironically, the gangs are amongst the few people who buy computer games at shop prices. However, they do save money by avoiding the colossal phone bills that occur when they exchange information. Gang members can reroute calls through countries which have telephone systems so primitive that for the crackers they are laughably easy to beat. It is of course part of the cyberpunk ethos to employ such indiscriminate methods of theft.
There is a form of anarchy at work in the way in which they look at something ideologically. But the concern is really the people who are living off them, taking the cracked software and then making it available for their own commercial advantage. So there isn't an altruism that goes right across the board. There are a lot of people who are more than happy to make money out of the software which these young people have cracked.
These people that crack the games, they're not necessarily the ones that sell them. They seem to do this for a hobby. And so, you know, these people do this and they normally give them to their friends, but then there are these people that then latch onto that and actually take the games and sell them. They've probably actually got nothing to do with the actual cracking of the games. They're purely in it to make money.
Per capita, the UK has more home computer users than any other country in Europe. Glasgow holds a unique position in this. The computer games companies regard the city as a cesspool of computer piracy. For this reason, despite unusually high numbers of computer owners, there are less computer game shops than in any other city in the UK.
I would think there are maybe 10 games pirated for every one bought at a wild stabbing ballpark estimate.
Prior to going to the barras, you go into the game shops just to see what's on the market and then go and see if they've got them up the barras. So, and they usually are there. You can get an idea of what they're like on the boxes, in Virgin, for example.
Most people I know that have bought original computer games have maybe got a PC or maybe they just
I've heard about
their conscience bothers them or something, I don't know.
A lot of people are not aware of the availability of sort of copies that they can get, you know, so.
At the sharp end of the fight against computer piracy are the fast agents. Repeated raids on illegal outlets for copy computer games has resulted in the seizure of massive amounts of computer equipment and discs.
We've taken a number of actions in Scotland. First of all, we obtained interdicts against a number of individuals in the High Court in Edinburgh. Subsequent to that, we took an action with Eastern Division Police, and following that, a number of raids were carried out on the street market in Barrowlands.
We've done reconnaissance this morning between 10:30 hours and 11:30 hours, and the basis of that is that we've gathered intelligence on what's happening within the market this morning. We believe that copyright material from the software element is being copied within the market this morning. We've identified the target stall as being located within Death Row. I've got a drawing here which I hope you can see clearly. Death Row runs down here, and the stall that we're particularly concerned with is located and is a shaded area on the map. Good luck, guys. Stay lucky. Let's hope we get a big seizure. Yeah, good morning. I have a warrant here under the Copyright Designs and Patents Act, Section 100, which gives me authority to seize any pirated goods in terms of software which might happen to be on the stand. Further, under Section 296, subsection 3 of the same Act, I am authorised to seize any hardware which is being used in the production of those copies. Right. Right. I'm going to give you a receipt for anything that I take from the stall. Right. Can you perhaps identify to me which are pirated software and which are public domain?
Excuse me, mate. You can't film on the market.
I can't film on the market.
And the security is not
Don't
Don't.
All right. Excuse me, sir.
Right, that's it. Private property. Get him out. It's in private property. Hang on.
Right, this is today's seizure. You can see we have 8 black briefcases which contain a mix of discs. We'll have lists in the back here which identify numbers against particular discs. Each case will contain approximately the same amount in terms of quantity, and as we go through them we will identify if there are any public domain discs contained within the briefcase. Those can go back to the vendor, but generally speaking, and by his own admission this morning, he feels that they're nearly all pirated copies. People over 30, over 40 who are not hands-on computer literate or hands-on computer users wouldn't have any idea what was involved in real terms. And it's only our activities in this area that has made me aware of what horrendous sums we're talking about. And they are horrendous sums. We're talking about millions of pounds. If you look at the 3 markets we've got in Scotland, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I'll carry on anyway. The 3 markets we've hit in Scotland so far are the Barrows, Ingliston, Kinross. And we've gone away with maybe teetering on £1 million worth of retail sales. And that's 3 weekends, 4 weekends.
Unfortunately for FAST and the software companies they represent, these dramatic raids and seizures can often prove to be less successful than they first appeared. In America, mainland Europe, and even down in England, a seizure like this one in Ingliston would lead to a prosecution in the criminal courts. However, in Scotland, this is not always the case.
A number of our own actions were successful, but in fact the 2 criminal actions that were taken did not succeed in court. In the first instance, the action was stopped by the Procurator Fiscal's office, who said that the action would not be in the public interest. And in the second action, there was a defect in the warrant which had been granted by the court, and as a result of that warrant being invalidated, the evidence was also rendered inadmissible. So in each of those cases where action was taken, it did not reach a conclusion in the courts.
FAST have mounted a number of fairly major operations recently, cracking down on well-known pirating rings, but there's still doubt over whether your average judge understands the subject enough to actually make it worth them taking people to court. What they have to do is just crack down on people as they catch them in the act, as it were.
Well, continual strikes, provided we're hitting the same target all the time, eventually the man's going to say to himself it's not viable for him to continually increase his investment in the enterprise. So he's going to say, well, fair enough, he's going to have to find some other way of earning a living. Got a warrant here from the copyright proprietor.
So what would you all suggest for crackers then legally? If people are going to clamp down, is it a case of you know, capital punishment, lock them up, throw away the key.
I think they should have to do community service or something like that, or they should have to earn some money that is given back to the company they stole it from in the first place.
Until somebody instructs us to identify the crackers and gives us some powers to act against the crackers, there's not a lot we're going to be able to do about it.
I think we've all got to be more cautious. Before, it was more or less, there was no software police kind of thing, you know, no fast. But now, as companies get bigger, as there's a boom in the computer industry, more people are buying the games. That's allowing companies to make more money. They're able to give fast more money, and that's obviously going to come down on us if the more money they get to fund their sort of policing of the software.
Well, we have knowledge of a number of illegal operations around the United Kingdom, and we will be taking action as and when the evidence is forthcoming. So there is a good word of warning and advice to the people who know what they're doing, and it may be that they should reconsider.
The pirates may be outraging the computer games industry and certain elements of the legal establishment, but the consumer couldn't care. A games fan in Scotland currently gets value for money at an unprecedented level, and all because of the crackers. How much of your money then is spent buying computer games?
I'd say I maybe spend about £10 a month.
So that
maybe a wee bit more.
So that comes out to what, like 3 games?
2 or 3 games a month, yep.
And then if you were buying the full price games, how much would that come to?
Maybe 120, maybe 100.
So
and I certainly wouldn't pay that.
There's no doubt that computer games are too expensive for what they are. Console games are worse. Computer games are relatively affordable, and it's helped their image greatly because they're so much cheaper than console games. But there's still an awful lot of money being made somewhere.
How much of that actually goes to you guys who wrote the thing?
The developers get less than 10% of that.
That's as little as that?
Yeah, that's right. There are so many links in the chain. You have publishers, distributors, retailers, and at the end of the day, we're on less than 10%.
So who gets the biggest whack out of it then?
Publishers get a fair whack, and distributors also get a fair whack. You know, they can maybe take in 40–50% of the retail price. I think most developers actually feel that the games are too expensive. You know, but like we said before, there's not much we can do. But yeah, I mean, anything I feel that could be done to bring the actual price down would be a benefit.
You could half the cut that you guys get.
We could do, or we could sort of half the cut that distributors get.
If you really want to see what the hackers do to our industry, look at the Atari ST. That's dead. That has died, and the Amiga is going the same way. The Amiga, I reckon, maybe have 2 or 3 years life left in it. That's it. And not because of the hardware, because the hardware is being updated and people are writing programs for the new hardware, but just look at it. We cannot make enough money out of one product on the Amiga to keep this company going. We have to produce stuff for the PC. We have to produce stuff for everything else that's around, just simply because they've killed the Amiga market.
What can be done to break this deadlock? Should computer games be made cheaper, or can Fast catch the crackers before the situation spirals out of control? The British-made Amiga home computer format is already at risk. Others may soon follow.
CD-ROMs may be one answer. The copyability of CD-ROMs is very limited indeed.
The CD may be a start, you know, to reducing the piracy, the cracking, which is why publishers and developers are all very interested in CD.
You've got to buy thousands of pounds worth of equipment to actually reproduce it. Whereas a floppy disk, everyone can buy a blank floppy disk and write to a floppy disk, whereas a CD costs a lot of money to write to. Until the time when we do get cheap read-write CDs, we're not going to be able to do the CD-protected games.
If the technology provides a complete answer to piracy, then there may indeed be a very diminished role for Fast. And I would have to say personally, I'd be very happy to be made redundant because piracy has been totally eradicated.